All right, we're live. Welcome back to the boxing shop. I have not been here in a while. We have not been here in a while. Felix is not here tonight, but Ray and I, as always, are here to carry the show. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing pretty good, man. And it's yeah, we haven't been here, but been busy, man. Felix working on a lot of things. Um, yeah, some great videos coming out. Programs. He's working on a little 24/7 thing. And yeah, a lot of good content. We've had a reason, right? But
Yeah,
hey, we're back here. Some of us.
yeah, he's out tonight, but we've been talking the last couple of days about some of the stuff that he's getting ready to put out, and it's stuff that he's been working on for months. With some of the honestly some of the best young fighters in boxing right now. So everybody that's kind of tuned into our shit, definitely stay tuned in this week because Felix is going to be making some really good drops that I'm excited to see, and I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. Um, like we were saying right before we got on air, it's a slower time in boxing right now. Um, I think some of that is like I feel like I kind of saw this coming. Like we got two good ones, and now we're gonna get starved out for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of
Yeah.
money got dumped into Fulton in a way and Crawford Spence, and now it's gonna be like
Yeah.
this for a little bit.
I mean, it's not nothing. It usually happens, right? Like usually you have that big September fight, but the summer is not known for boxing, really. I guess. So yeah, you get this little break. The year's gonna finish strong. We just got to get there, and right now we're kind of like in that almost there, but not yet. Little things going on here and there that we'll talk about, but yeah, definitely a break in the action, I'd say.
Well, I think that's like a perfect segue into one of the things we were going to cover today anyway. Talking about ending the year with a bang, we're apparently no longer going to get Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin. It seems unclear as to why that's happening, but that honestly, that was a fight that I was very excited for. I think we both kind of know who's going to win that fight, but I was excited to see Shakur in with another like prime young lightweight who's got some skills. You know what I'm saying? Who wants to win? I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I was looking forward to it too. Like you said, I kind of figured Shakur would, show why he's not getting fights. Um, and it just really sucks. And I don't know why. They said it was agreed to, and then the report is they sent the contracts out, and then they got word back from the Martin camp that they were no longer interested. You hate to call anyone a duck, right? I don't know what's going on, but to me, what it looks like is a business decision was made. Like, I don't think anyone's going to beat Shakur at that weight. I just don't see it. And if you could avoid taking that loss and be an undefeated fighter for a few more fights, is that more beneficial than not cashing out, but basically, that might be the biggest fight you're ever in if you're Frank Martin. And if you just go in there and get wiped out, where does that leave you?
The flip
So,
side of that is even if Frank were to lose, but he was very competitive, I think that that would keep him as a relevant lightweight, if not propel him into like one of
oh,
the best. You know,
oh,
coming out
100%,
before right
100%.
after Shakur, people be talking about Frank Martin like he's one of the guys.
Hey, that's why we're talking about Pitbull Cruz.
Exactly.
Why
Perfect
why
example.
he's one of the guys, right? Like he took that fight and he lost. But he went 12 with Javante. So, we think that he's one of the guys. Now I just don't know, was the confidence, not there that he could even compete? I don't know. And like I said, I don't know why he didn't take the fight, but that's what it looks like to me.
Well, modern king boxing, I think, that's part of the issue with some of these like really great fighters. Like Terrence had this problem for a long time, right? It's like it's tough for certain guys that are really skilled but don't necessarily bring a fuck ton of money to the table. It's tough for them to get bigger fights at certain stretches in their careers. I just think Shakur is kind of in that
You know,
part of his career right now.
yeah, and he says Shakur, he's not proven, he's not Andre Ward. To me, this early in his career, I feel like he's above Andre Ward, right? Like, because early in Andre Ward's career, he got hit, knocked down, never in any trouble. Undefeated. Bro, Shakur is not getting touched
We've
at all.
never seen Shakur lose a round really that I can remember.
Yeah, I don't see how, maybe let's take that Andre Ward, right? Like, oh, okay, he gets knocked down. I could hurt him, right? I hit harder than that guy. Like, what can you do better than Shakur's opponents to get him into any trouble? Nobody's had any success. So, and I mean, yeah, it's building up this reputation. And I think people are, hey, we just don't want any of that, right? Like, you talk about blueprints to win fights, but like you said, is there a blueprint to win a round? Right. At that weight, with those smaller guys, I don't think
a blueprint to be competitive for any period of time.
Yeah, I know. And like we go back to, I go back to Pitbull Cruz. Maybe he had enough faith in his chin. Like, I'm not gonna get knocked out, and he took that chance, and it's paid. It's paid off for him, right? Like we're talking about him basically because he lost, but went 12. But I just don't know how you beat Shakur Stevenson right now, right? Like, he made Oscar Valdez look like it wasn't competitive at all. And then Oscar Valdez after that has a good win. And then, he ended up losing to Navarrete, but he had a good win after fighting Shakur, which told me, like, man, Shakur really is on another.
Shakur, it's not Valdez.
Yeah, it could have been like, oh, maybe Shakur or maybe Valdez was washed. Anyone would have beaten him at that point. Nah, like Shakur made him look that way, and then he went on to win. Yeah, I just think Shakur is probably in one of the worst spots in boxing, man. Everybody's looking at him like the guy, but nobody wants to fight him. And really, like I said, business-wise, can you blame them?
Right. All of them, he's not the biggest fight that would be available to them. Like, he's nobody's dream fight. Nobody's dying to get, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's lining up to fight Shakur Stevenson. I think that's just a fact. Another win that I was always impressed with was Robson Conceição, the Brazilian guy, where he had a great fight with Valdez that was a flip a coin fight, like more of like a technical style, amateur style fighter. And I was like, maybe this guy's got some of the slickness. I mean, he had some moments just because he's a smart fighter, but man, I mean, Shakur just won every second of the fucking fight, bro.
And it's like, every boxer that speaks on Shakur gives it up for Shakur, right? Like the only thing I think I've heard Shakur say that, Bud, but him and Bud Crawford had some good rounds together. Maybe Shakur said something like he'd never been, I guess maybe in a competitive fight like that before. But we're talking about Bud Crawford against a 135 pounder, which is crazy, So it's like, what makes anyone think that they could be Shakur Stevenson right now? And that's what I think. I think everybody's just kind of knows that they can't. I
feel like Tank would believe that he can win that fight.
I was about to say that's probably the one fight that, because Tank's gonna hit you eventually, right? And we don't know that about Shakur, I guess, getting hit like that. So to me, that's the fight. If you had to put someone, that's the fight. But outside of that, man, it's like I don't know.
Are you talking about what would be a good fight or what would be like actually competitive for Shakur?
Competitive, where like, okay, man, maybe this could happen, right? Like, oh, maybe Tank hits him, and then let's see what happens. Basically everybody else, I think Shakur outboxes. Like, even Frank Martin. Frank Martin might be a good fighter, might be a world champion one day, but I wouldn't even consider him losing to Shakur.
There's some other lightweights that I think would be interesting fights that would let us know like just how great Shakur is. But a lot of those guys, like Haney's moving up to 140. Teofimo's moved up to 140 a while ago. Some of the bigger names that you would want to make at that weight are not there anymore. But I think, a fight with Frank Martin is great. I think a fight with Lomachenko is also still a very viable fight. And I think, especially with Lomachenko probably beating Haney, I think that keeps that fight relevant. He is in a tough spot though, man. He may be one of those guys that has to move up in weight to get meaningful fights,
or take short money. And this when
Haney, like how Haney did with Kambosos, kind of.
When Haney and Shakur going back and forth, and they've been doing that weeks on end. And that 25% offer came out, and Shakur kind of laughed at it. And even me, I'm like, come on, man, 25%. But now looking at what he's going through, it's like, Shakur, you probably would have won that fight. Like, yeah, you're taking really short money, but it probably would have been worth it, right?
Well, and also adding to that, with modern kickboxing, Ortiz versus Shakur should probably be top ranked choice. I like that fight as well. I think Jermaine Ortiz is a really good, big, strong, young, prime lightweight. You know what I mean? Obviously, all of these fights, other than Tank, maybe, which is 50-50, all those fights I favor Shakur in. I think it's just a matter of finding even interesting opponents, because everybody that's not like a top 10 lightweight, it's not even going to be, we know it's not going to be remotely competitive.
And the problem is, I think a lot of people, the fighters themselves, know that it's not going to be, that they're really up against it. So unless they're getting cashed out, which at this point I don't think Shakur is big enough to really cash out on, it's like, man, you're going to go in there and fight this really great guy and probably not going to get the credit for it unless it's a really close fight. And Frank Martin, they brought that up, or Modern Kickboxing brought up Tank versus Frank Martin. Man, that's an in-house fight and probably a bigger fight for Frank Martin, which kind of sucks for Shakur, because Tank really is that on top of the billboards names. So if that is the fight, if I see Frank Martin fighting Tank, okay, it makes sense.
By the way, if he takes a fight with Tank, it's tough to accuse him of ducking Shakur.
Exactly. And you know what? I hadn't even thought of that until right there. And I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Keep it in-house, a bigger fight, and just, bigger opportunity too. So if that happens, yeah, you can't, I can't call him a duck, but I will stick to that. It was a business decision though, which just kind of sucks for Shakur, because I feel like he's getting thrown in there that, he doesn't have a fan base or whatever. Shakur is entertaining, man. There are guys that, I'll talk about and I'll feel like, well, why fight him? I don't want to see a fight. Maybe Shakur's not knocking people out, but he goes for it. Like, he's a dog in there. He's trying. Yeah, like he was walking Valdez down, like, right? I'm a big Valdez fan. No, it wasn't like he was running from Valdez. He was walking him down. He just didn't knock him out. But, I think to kind of throw him, lump him up with people that, he's not entertaining. Yeah, whatever. We don't want to see him. Shakur is, to me, must-watch boxing.
I agree, bro. And there's a couple of, I'm just looking at the lightweight rankings right now, but the fights that would be interesting at this point are Tank, Loma, William Zepeda, who's fighting Mercito Gesta Saturday. That should actually be a relatively interesting matchup. Ray Marataya is a really talented young dude, but like he just hasn't really proven it against, Nakatila was a good win, but the Jermaine Ortiz, there's a couple. Isaac Cruz is still a fight that I would like to see Shakur in. But unfortunately for him at this point, also the big fights are at 140.
Yeah. And also unfortunate for him, like we talked about, is you have Tank Davis in the division, right? So if let's say I'm fighting two great fighters and, Tank Davis, more money comes along with that. So, okay, yeah, all right, I'm not going to fight Shakur, I'm going to fight Tank. And if that's what happens, if we see that play out with Frank Martin, it's like, man, that just sucks. I don't know how he gets over that. Like maybe you said, go up and wait or do something. But even then, it's not like guys are going to be, can't wait to fight him.
I think it'll be easier to get fights at 140. I agree. I think it'll be a lot easier, but like he can get like an Andy Cruz fight at 140.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's fights he can get at 140 that would be interesting, especially with the size difference.
Yeah, but I mean, really, we kind of thought that at 35, right? Like, when he was at 130, and I didn't think we're like, oh, at 35, we'll see what. So maybe he gets one fight at 40, and if everything carried up, he's looking just as good. I think some of those 140 guys will fall back too. And obviously, right now we're at at least me, I'm like, Shakur's at his peak for me, right? Like one of those guys where like, man, I don't see who beats him, right? I'm saying that I don't see who beats him. Until I think someone has some success against it, and maybe lets other people think that they can, do better. I think it's going to be really hard for him to get fights. Man.
I agree, man. Which is unfortunate.
It is,
especially when it is one of the best dudes out right now.
Yeah, and it's like, man, does he take short money? I don't know what he has to do. I mean, this was a mandatory, right? And even a mandatory, we thought we were going to get a good fight, and like, no, not going to happen. Obviously, what we've said is, and only in boxing it doesn't happen, is, well, why doesn't Tank and Shakur fight? But it's boxing, man. I don't know. I don't think we see that fight soon.
It'll happen in the next 2 or 3 years, but I think the main reason right now is just that Tank isn't active. He doesn't fight often. He hasn't fought often for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, and he's falling into that kind of, has to be a big event for him to take on the fight. Jesus right there, Murataya. I think we were in a group chat and someone posted the top 10 rankings. And I was like, man, I think Murataya might be the only one that actually takes that fight. And obviously, there's other people they probably will too. But I think Murataya is kind of a sleeper. I don't think he's going to be at this weight for long. I think he's really good. And, I think he would, test himself against Shakur. That's one I would like to see. Just both have been so dominant. But, business of boxing again. We always hear it. We always see it. Like, what are top ranks plans for both guys? And are they willing to risk that so early in both their careers?
Random thinking outside the box fight, but I would love to see Shakur Stevenson and Harold Barbosa at 140. Two guys that are having a hard time getting a big fight. I think that would be interesting. We'll just touch on this real quick. Do you have any thoughts on William Zepeda versus Mercito Gesta and kind of where, Mercito's gotten pretty big upsets his last couple of fights, but it looks like Zepeda's the real deal as a contender. I just can't tell if his defense is going to be able to hold up, but where do you kind of see this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone back and forth on Zepeda, right? Because I think we saw him. I can't even remember the opponent's name, and I was like, "Yo, this guy is crazy!" Like, I put him up there at the very top, right? Like the top 5 guys. And then he had an outing against the guy who was really awkward, and I was like, I don't know. Then he fought Jojo Diaz and threw, I don't know how many punches, right? And so I was high on him again. It's just, I don't know. Like, Gesta is a good fighter, pulled off some upsets, but I would like to see Zepeda in maybe what I consider better competition. But I just think, with Golden Boy, I think we've kind of, at least I've come to the conclusion is, you don't really get those fights. They're going to stretch it out. They're going to have him fight people and meanwhile call out other people. And I just don't. I like Zepeda. I want to see him in the good fights. Or I guess this is a good fight. I want to see him in the matchups we want to see. And I just don't think that's coming anytime soon. So
right. Mercito, is a great guy, great fighter, but he's probably like number 11 or 12 at lightweight right now. And we're at the point where I want to see Zepeda in with like the 7 or 8. You know what I mean? Like, he's had a couple of these kinds of fights. I'm glad Mercito's getting the opportunity, but Zepeda's had a couple of these kinds of fights. Did he not get offered a Shakur fight at one point? Am I making that up?
I haven't heard that. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, Golden Boy's not doing. I saw an interview with Canelo. I think it was on the Breakfast Club, and he was speaking in English, but obviously there's some he can't really say what he wants. Um, and he said Oscar told him something one time that kind of made him look at things different. And what he was saying was that Oscar told him like, "Hey, just give a little bit at a time. Just give a little bit. Keep giving a little bit." And I think he was talking about like fights. You know, like there's no need to go to that the biggest fight that people want to see. Just give a little bit, and they'll keep watching you, and they'll keep watching you. And bro, that explains so much. That's the Golden Boy plan right there, and it sucks. And Canelo said that's why that was kind of one of the things. Was like, no, I'm out.
Do you think it's that Oscar doesn't feel like they can solo promote a big card, so they have to build up their guys in house to do a co-promotion?
I think it's that, and I think he even kind of like, I don't need them, right? Like we don't need that big fight. Like why risk it all in one fight when I could have these guys fight 10 fights and they're all gonna sell well? You know, he's looking at it, I think, from, you know, that's Golden Boy's investment. Why would we risk that? Like, let's just keep, hey, like Canelo said, like give a little here, give a little here.
I guess the like obvious answer would be like, well, Oscar, you took those risks. That's part of like how you become great in boxing. So I guess on a simpler level, obviously he's not the dictator of the company, but on an obvious level, it's like you'd think that would be like their mission statement.
You would think, and I really think it's tough, right? Because if you're a fighter, you're kind of an employee, right? Or I guess you are. And then you saw what happened with Ryan Garcia. Let's say he made the fight happen, right? And he kind of.
I'm just thinking that through.
Working for you.
I feel like the promoters work for the fighters, or they should work for the fighters, but I think it plays out kind of the opposite.
Yeah, that's kind of like, even just saying that, I'm like, well, they should be working for you, but you're signed to them.
The fighter should be
tough, and I think, yeah, well, and I think we've seen it kind of work both ways, and that's kind of like these different promoters, right? It sucks. You know, at the end of the day, you want the guys to make their money. You don't want them to be taken advantage of or whatever. But like in a sport where they're promoting, it's like, I think some of us just see through it, right? We see through the Munguias. And I, you know, going back to, I hope that isn't the case with Zepeda, but it kind of looks like, if I had to guess, that's what we're gonna get. We're gonna get a, you know, step up, name here, name there, but never really the fight that we want to see. Unless he starts calling out. Ryan Garcia did make a fight happen, and he lost. And I'm sure Golden Boy was probably like, "Look, we told you guys."
Ryan was such a massive star that it's like he can kind of call those shots a little bit, even if Oscar and Golden Boy think that it's a bad risk for him to take.
Yeah, and I think he has such an audience tuned in to everything he does, whether that's social media or being able to get on TV and say, "Hey, this is the fight I want. This is the fight I want. That's the only fight I want." Okay, they had to give him right, because they work for him. Now they work for him. Okay, we'll give you that. But I think a lot of those guys who aren't in that situation, they're probably just happy, you know.
They have to take what's handed to them at a certain point in order to stay active and stay like employed, you know.
So, yeah, stay active and make money, right? You have to fight to make money. So if you ask me, maybe if we ask William Zepeda, "Hey, is, you know, Gesta the guy you've been wanting to fight?" Probably not. I'm guessing he probably wants those top guys. But hey, this is who they're giving me. They're gonna give me my paycheck. It just sucks. We kind of went on a tangent. I think Zepeda's good. I'd like to see him against better guys, and I don't really want to wait.
He is too, and I think he's a guy that could be in the mix. I don't get the sense that he's like afraid to fight anybody. He strikes me as like a good dude. And Jesus, you know, that's why TV networks don't invest in boxing bubble wrap fights. I think that there is some truth to that. I think if boxing was a little less predictable, it would be more interesting. That's definitely a fact.
And that's where the whole, it's a age-long debate, right? Like we go to the UFC and people say UFC gives us the fights that we want to see. Well, yeah, because it's kind of a monopoly. They have all the fights, and we're going to tell you who to fight. You have no other options. So that's good in a sense for the fans. Like, hey, everybody fights everybody. You have to. But then at the same time, like, man, those guys aren't getting their worth, right? Like, I should be, if I'm a big time fighter, I'm the main attraction. I should be able to get paid and make the fights that I want to.
I mean, the perfect middle would be like the competitive structure of UFC, where the best fights are in some way mandated, but the business structure of boxing, where even if those fights are being mandated, like you're maximizing the amount of money that you're getting from those fights to fighters, as opposed to the UFC where Dana White's taking, a disproportionate amount.
Right. Yeah, and I just don't know. I don't know if that business model has anyone's tried it yet or what, right? Because they sign a 5-fight deal, and they sign how much they're going to make for each fight. It's like, hey, you could have blown up and everybody wants to see you, but hey, you signed that contract.
Multi-fight deals in boxing are tricky because it's assuming that you're going to win all of them, but then you're being protected from certain fights.
Yeah.
To keep that contract going. So it's like a contradiction that never really fixes itself.
And it is. And I think that's what happened with the De La Hoya or Golden Boy Canelo deal, right? Like he signed this biggest contract ever.
Yeah.
Whatever with DAZN, Golden Boy and all that. And then it was like, well, hold on. Canelo's still saying who he wants to fight. So who has the power now, right? Because we paid you, we have the platform. It's tough. And I think I would point to that as it doesn't work really, right? That deal ended up they went to court, sued, Canelo became free agent. But in a perfect world, right? Everybody, there's, I guess, a head of a company that could tell you to fight, but then they still get I don't know, man. I don't see how it's possible.
I mean, the belts would have to become a more like legitimate part of boxing in order for that to happen.
Yeah, and even then, there would have to be something built in, like, well, if I become this champion, then that's gonna void that part of my contract because now I'm worth more money, right? Like, I signed this 5-fight deal, but I wasn't a champion back then. Now I'm a champion,
right?
And so I think with boxers, that's kind of how it is now, right? You fight, boom, you become a champion. Well, my next fight, I'm negotiating more. So, like you said, it gets really tricky when you sign those multi-fight deals. But, I mean, this has been boxing for, before I was here.
Yeah.
So, we just hope we get the fights we want to see. And, we're really happy when we get, oh, that's not a bad fight. I'll watch that, But ideal world, there's one ranking system, one champion, and they all fight. That's not gonna happen. So we're just here, bro. We're just fans, and we watch it all, I guess.
Yeah. Well, speaking of watching it all, good segue. Luis Alberto Lopez taking on Joet Gonzalez on Friday. That seems like a Saturday main event kind of fight. I mean, this is like a pretty solid matchup. I think Lopez is the best featherweight right now, maybe outside of Robesi. But if you were ranking them, I think you'd have to put Lopez at 1 right now, right? I mean,
and even style-wise and entertainment factor, and and he's a champion too. So I think it's a really good fight. I think to me it's an interesting fight because I think the way he won his belt, I don't think he was supposed to win his belt. Beats Warrington and beats Conlon. I felt like they were trying to get that belt off of him. And he's just one of those tough guys that, hey, I'll fight anyone. And good things happen to those guys. And then I feel like, Joet's really good too. But really, I feel like maybe Joet was more positioned to win that belt, where you have this tough guy that wasn't, and now they're fighting each other. So to me, it's a good fight. I think Joet is more, maybe classically skilled or whatever.
Yep.
But Lopez is a guy that's going to give it his all, and I think be an entertaining fight. So I think this is kind of a sleeper. I know we said nothing's going on right now, but you put this fight.
Nothing's going on in the sense of there isn't like a big billboard marquee fight going on. But this is one of those like fight fans fights where like Luis Alberto Lopez, a champion, kind of does everything wrong, but everything works for him. Like it works perfectly for him. He's reaching across his body to land punches, and it's awkward, but it hits really hard. He's short, he jumps in, but he doesn't. He kind of gets hit, but he doesn't. He's just a very tricky guy. And then Joet is like very standard box. Like he's kind of like a Johnny Gonzalez type. But the thing that Joet has is experience fighting an awkward champion in Navarrete. I feel like that's the only way you could really prepare for Lopez is to fight another guy that like Navarrete is another one that does fucking everything wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you fight someone who does everything wrong, but does everything wrong better, and it's tougher. It's like, and that's what I meant. I felt like, Joet, you would think if you saw their careers and coming up and styles, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is the guy's a champion. But Lopez is just that. Like we said, man, he does everything wrong, but he does it, and he gets in there. He wants to fight.
There's X factors, you know what I mean? Because it's you have to be special to win the way he's winning. His chin is so up in the air, and he's so hittable that you have to be doing something special. And I think a lot of it is his timing. Like he just has this very awkward timing that he knows for himself, where it's like this short guy, and you're halfway across the ring, and you're like, I'm not in range, and then he's jumping in with punches. You know what I mean? And it works for him.
Yeah, and he's been the opponent so much. It's like, yo, when are people going to learn? Like, now he's finally the champ in that, but just that mindset that he's the opponent, he's got to go in. He hasn't changed, since he got that big win. I think our first baby came on the scene. I mean, you probably have seen him before, but I would say, Gabe Flores, where, okay, Gabe's a good enough boxer. He's going to outbox
Andy Vences. Even before that,
he did. But like, Andy's good, but I feel like Gabe's skill-wise, Gabe's that guy, right? Like now we talk about X factors and things change and all that, but I think when they were making that matchup, you'd be like, all right, you look at Lopez and you look at Gabe Flores and know what Gabe Flores can do. You'd be like, okay, Gabe, this is a guy Gabe can beat, just soft skills. It didn't work out that way, but I think other people saw that, right? So then they bring him into England. Oh, look at it, man! We'll get him out of there. He doesn't, and he just keeps winning because he's tough. Now that's what makes me think, or that's what makes me want to see this fight, right? Because now we got Joet, and like you said, he's fought Navarrete, and skill-wise, Joet's gonna be able to do his thing. But I just don't know, man. Those X factors that Lopez brings. Makes this a fight to see for me.
I think that Joet might be more durable than any of those guys overall. Like I think I trust his durability more than Conlon just because Conlon's been knocked out before. Warrington, I think you can also take some hope in like the Warrington fight was a flip a coin fight. I don't know if you remember how close that fight was, but it was honestly kind of surprising that Lopez got the decision
over there, yeah,
in the UK because it was really like it was a 6-6 kind of fight, 7-5 either way kind of fight.
Yeah.
So I think that fight was like if you're looking for a blueprint on what to do, that's kind of what you have to do. You have to like mixture of bully him and box him and kind of make him gun shy a little bit. I don't know if Joet has like the consistency to do that, but I still like the matchup, and I think Featherweight's got some good matchups right now.
I like the matchup. I think it's gonna be entertaining. Joet, I feel like, man, he's kind of just on that. He's on the brink of being at that next level, but he hasn't shown me anything that really makes me think he is on that next level. Like he gets close, he's durable, and then you pull for those guys too, right? Because like he puts in the work, He was another one with
a true contender. He's a true contender.
Yeah, but he's fought some really tough guys when he made that, Navarrete and he fought Shakur too, right?
Shakur, and then he lost that. I thought he got ripped off against Dog Bay. Not ripped off, but I thought he won the fight.
Yeah. But the Shakur thing, man, and that goes back to just how good Shakur is, right? Because they built that the whole thing up. I remember Shakur was dating his sister or whatever, and you really thought you were going to see, Joet come out, and Shakur was just too good. He's just too good, and that goes to more, and that's more on Shakur being that good than Joet being really that bad.
Yep.
When you see just someone dominated and so clearly, it's tough to get behind him and think he can do something more. Which isn't fair.
Like generational talent.
Yeah, which isn't fair, but that just speaks to Shakur's greatness. This fight, I think, is going to be a good fight. I don't know. You picking a winner? You have a winner?
I think Lopez is the guy until he fights Robeisy. Like I don't think anybody at 126 is going to be able to beat this guy. I do think Robeisy has both the power and the skill to get it done, but I think this guy's number 2 on the eye test, number 1 ranked. I just think he's too much, man.
Yeah, I think he's probably too strong, and I don't think Joet's going to do anything to really throw him off his game plan. Jesus says Joet is a journeyman. I would say gatekeeper, and I'm saying gatekeeper for the very top.
I think that's a contender. I think to me he's a legit contender.
I can see it. I can see it. But I just think, like I said, he's on that brink to me, and I haven't seen anything that really makes me think he's a world champion. But if you can't beat him, you're not beating those top guys, obviously. So I would put him as a really good gatekeeper. I don't think he's a journeyman yet. And that's all how you defined each gatekeeper, journeyman, champ, bum, contender. It's all.
I mean, Jesus, I'm saying the card's not that good. There's some good young guys on the undercard. I know, Ray, you're not a big fan of watching some of the undercard guys if they're too early on in their career. Is Xander Zayas at a point in his career where you're interested in watching?
I mean, I'm interested in watching him fight people. I feel like they're kind of pushing him, and he's been pushed as, the next Puerto Rican guy, the guy. And I don't think he's in those fights yet. I think he should be in those fights so we can see what's up.
Too early. They pushed that too early and too young, so that the expectation builds up, and by the time they're 20, 21 years old, we're like, we want to see them in a title fight, but they're not ready for that.
They're not, and that's kind of the give and the take, right? Because we want to see him, but when you're already pushing him as that, I'm like, well, then show me that he's that, and I feel like Berlanga kind of fell into that. And then there's been a few.
But there's also those occasional special fighters like Keyshawn and Loma that move quicker than the other guys. And I think sometimes you wonder, like, is Xander going to be one of those? But those guys are also a little bit older. I think that's part of it, is when you push these kids so young that they're the next hot thing, it kind of builds this bubble that gets burst when they're not ready like 6 months later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'd really like that. That really interests me on how these fights get made. Because obviously, like, we're thinking behind the scenes and you bring someone along, but I don't know. I kind of go back to like Richard Torres. Like, why is Richard Torres fighting the guys he's fought when he was an Olympian? It's like, what are they looking? And these guys are smarter than me in the boxing world,
Right. Loma fights Gary Russell in his third fight.
Right. So, what's the difference? Like, is that the fighter having more control over who they fight? Is that the matchmaker saying, no, you're going to fight this, and the fighter just taking whatever you give them? But I don't know, bro. I've always been curious about that. And if we could get really one of those fighters to open up, or it'd probably be more of a manager that we would talk to and open up about, why these fights happen. And
right. The opponent choices. Why are some guys matched really tough, and then other guys, it's like they're stars, but the fights themselves, the matchups are like afterthoughts.
Yeah, like is that showing me you don't have confidence in your guy, or like you just want him to maybe work on something? I don't know. I feel like for the way Xander's been pushed, he should be fighting better guys. But at the same time,
He's not fighting bums. He is fighting decent fighters that are not contenders, but they're like solid pros. I agree that the level that they should, the way they're moving and pushing him, they should be moving him how they're moving Keyshawn.
Yeah,
basically.
No, I'm with that. So like Xander, maybe I don't even know who he's fighting. Maybe I don't have to watch him fight, but he is a guy that I'm gonna ask you how'd he look, what happened, like, hey, what did Xander do? Because he's on that radar, right? What did he do? But this is a fight I feel like he should win. So to me, he's not at that must watch, stage yet. But hey, what's Xander over there doing? Because I think Top Rank has big plans for him.
Another interesting one, just because we've been talking about him, Jermaine Ortiz is going to fight a pretty decent fighter, Antonio Moran, on this undercard. I'm just wondering, because it is an ESPN Top Rank fight, like, do you think they're putting Jermaine on this card in anticipation of potentially matching him with Shakur?
Man, I'm sure Shakur would take it. I would like to. I don't know if Jermaine's management and all that. I don't think anybody's rushing into a Shakur fight, bro. I just don't think so. Like, even maybe if Top Rank would, hey, this is what it is. But like we said, they're not the UFC. They're not. They can't say, hey, you have to fight him. So then you got to get the money right. You got to make it, worth. I know. I believe you guys are very high on Jermaine. And yeah, who would I'd like to see that'd probably be the Shakur's best opponent. But I think that's for his management and what plans they have, right? Do you wait it out till Shakur goes to 140, or is that the fight you want? I haven't heard him speak on it. If he's spoken on it, I haven't heard it. But Top Rank, they probably love that fight if they don't really. I mean, you got to give Shakur some fights too, right?
Right. He's got to get in the ring.
Yeah.
There's some other good young guys on this card too. Tiger Johnson, Ruben Villa is going to be fighting again on this card. Emiliano Vargas, Robson Conceição, who has already fought Shakur, is on this undercard. I think it's a decent card as far as names, matchups. Nothing too much to get excited about on that one. The last thing really that we've got this week is the fact that
let me hop in. I do, Jesus said the card's not good and maybe the matchups aren't that good. Bro, I never hate boxing on a Friday. Like, I feel like that's what it should be. If you're gonna give us these this is get your highlight reel or whatever, yeah, let's do it on a Friday, right? So I'm not mad at it. If I don't feel like they're taking up, back in the day, they're taking up an HBO card, and you'd kind of be mad because there's only so many cards that HBO had, and you're like, no, man, this is a Friday. Well, we got some big names, guys. Probably 3-4 years from now, we're gonna be in those world title fights. Like, hey, Friday, let's tune in. I'm not mad at it.
I'm not either. I think that also helps too, because then Gesta and Zepeda gets its own, actual attention. We don't have to split that as boxing fans. I think that's better for the sport when the fans don't have to choose,
And also, there's boxing fans, but there's rollover. Like, college football just started. Saturday nights, they throw on big games too. So I feel like at this kind of, especially this early in the college football season, there's a lot of just like figuring things out, and it's tough for a boxing card to go on a Saturday night. So I think that's kind of plays a part why, the lull in action. Obviously, a Canelo is gonna do Canelo numbers, But yeah, boxing fans, they mix in with the football fans. Football fans box too. So it's tough, like we said. But yeah, Saturday for the boxing fans, Zepeda, it's going to be a good watch.
I agree, bro. The last thing I kind of wanted to cover this week is the fact that this most recent undisputed featherweight champion, Amanda Serrano, her next title defense against Danila Ramos is going to be 12 3-minute rounds, which is sort of a historic moment in women's boxing where you have a title fight, an undisputed title fight. It's going to be 12 3-minute rounds. We've talked about this a bunch on this show, but how are you feeling about this now that it's actually happening?
That's not my fix to women's boxing. It never has been. I think the fix is smaller gloves, 2 ounces smaller. You know, the men, let's say they play baseball, the fields are 300 plus, and the women's are 200. I think the smaller gloves is the fix because I think this is done to say like let's get us some knockouts, or maybe it's just done like hey we're just as good as athletes as men, which they are. But I feel like if Amanda Serrano is going to knock her out in 3 minutes, she would have done it in 2.
I used to kind of think that I don't know that it's not necessarily a fix, but I think it's going to level out the playing field and make women's boxing more interesting. A lot of times you see these 2-minute rounds, you'll see because it's inherently slower to get through a 2-minute round than a 3-minute round. That last minute between the fatigue, but it's a big difference.
I think. Do we want to do that across the board though? Because I don't know if there's enough talent in women boxing for at this championship level, and Amanda Serrano for sure. Shields, Marshall, let's throw out all the names. Shadeza, all these. Yeah, they could go 3 minutes, but you know, there's less women boxers.
That's why I feel like it's important more so to do it at the elite level so that a title fight isn't 10 2-minute rounds. I've always thought that however you feel about the length of the rounds, the fact that it's 2 less rounds and they're 2-minute rounds, that's just not right to me. You know what I mean? You're cutting the fights too short.
Yeah, so I mean, if this was for like, if it's something like, hey, championship fights, we're not gonna go 12 rounds, but now we're going 3-minute rounds. I think that makes it, it's significant. All right, championship fight, this is gonna be 3-minute rounds. The way in men's it's championship fight, we're going 12 rounds now. But I don't think it's something you could have across the board. I don't think like, hey, every women's fight now is also 3 minutes. I just don't know if you have the talent there to be able to do that. Do I want to see Amanda Serrano in a 3-minute round? Sure, sign me up. But it would be like
I want to see her with Katie Taylor in 3-minute rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, where you're adjusting mid round. You know, you're making those adjustments because the 2-minute rounds is like a lot of action. Boom, round's over. Like you said, that last minute really. So I think you would see, mid-round adjustments.
There's also, I think that benefits a fighter like Amanda Serrano, who is such a hard puncher and is also really durable. Like you see this in the amateurs, right? There's guys will have a matchup and one guy always wins in the amateur because it's a shorter fight, but that has nothing to do with a 12-rounder. You know what I'm saying? Like just because you beat me in 3 2-minute rounds has nothing to do with how we go at it for 36 minutes. So the difference benefits certain fighters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it does. And I mean, shoot, you could say that about, like I don't know, Antonio Margarito. He'd be a horrible amateur, right? Like, bro, somebody would piece him up for 3 2-minute rounds, whatever. He's not gonna beat anybody. But now you put him in where you're going 12 rounds, you're going 10 rounds. Can you outlast him?
Yeah, how you feeling in the 8th?
So, I mean, it's almost different sports from amateur boxing to professional boxing.
It is.
And yeah, I'm curious to see if that happens in the women's boxing. But I do think that should be held out for the championship fights. That elite.
I also think what would happen, and I don't think all women's boxing is going to be 3 minutes anytime soon. I don't think that's coming. But I think if it were, I think you just see more 4 and 6 rounders as opposed to 8 and 10 rounders. But I think that the importance of the 3 minute round, as far as, to me, that's one of the challenges of the sport, is can you survive that full 3 minutes with somebody? And I feel like women's boxing, that element of it just gets cut short every time. You know what I mean?
It does. Yeah, and I mean, I guess what's the purpose? Like, are we seeing who the best fighter is or whatever? I've kind of fell into, when I hear the 3 minute rounds, to me, they want to see knockouts, right? Because I feel like that's what Clarissa Shields was pulling for. Like, give me 3 minute rounds, I'll get these girls. Because she's criticized so much, she doesn't get anybody out, and they did it. Give me 3 minute rounds, I'll get these girls out. And to me, that's not always gonna happen. Now, if we're saying like, give me 3 minute rounds, so we can see, what happens, those adjustments. Can you go that's different, and I think I'm more open to that. Like, okay, yeah, give me 3 minute rounds.
I think that's what I'm in it for.
Yeah, and you giving that insight right there, like that made me just think right now, like, oh, okay, yeah, let's see that. I don't think that's gonna.
By the way, they're sparring 3 minute rounds. You know,
yeah.
I was in the gym with Shadeja Green a couple days ago. They all spar 4 minute rounds with 30-second breaks. So as far as and she's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, that's elite level.
We're talking about capabilities. All the females in that gym are doing 4 minute rounds with 30-second breaks in sparring. And there's multiple females training at that gym. They were all doing it. So I think that there's plenty of girls that could get it done.
Yeah, and you have to think, like, as a fighter, you're like, hey, I do this now. I'm doing 4 minutes in the gym, 5 minutes in the gym, but you're only giving me 2. No, at least give me 3.
Right. Right. Someone like Shadeja is in condition to do 4 minute rounds. So a 2 minute round is absolutely cutting her short.
Yeah, and it probably cuts short like her whole game plan, right? Like, it's interesting to see, and I feel like we're in a crossroads of how is this gonna go. Like you said, if it's more 3 minute rounds or 3 minutes, but more 6 to 8 round fights, all right. I just hope it wouldn't be across the board. That's my thing. Like, I don't think their talent level is there in the sport to force everybody to fight,
yeah,
10 3 minute rounds.
Now, I hear what you're saying. I also think there's some big fat fuck heavyweights they make do 3 minute rounds, and I'm like, I don't need to see this.
Hey, that's true too, right? And I'm sure they'd probably say the same thing too. Hey, right. Give me 2 minute rounds, right? Because whatever I got is what I got, and that's kind of my thing. Even this, like, if you could do that in 2 minutes, you could do it in 3. Like, what's gonna change? Yeah. I guess now we're really gonna see, but we're probably gonna get. But Amanda Serrano could punch too, bro. It's not like her wearing people down. Like, Amanda Serrano can punch.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll give her 3 minute rounds, but she could probably do that in 2 minute rounds. I don't know. I'm going to tune in because it's Amanda Serrano, right? I just hope she's not wearing Jordans or whatever. I hope she's wearing a boxing shoe. But that's just me.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch her, man. I guess the last thing actually that we were going to bring up tonight is the fact that Devin Haney versus Regis Prograis looks like it's signed for December 9th. I love this matchup. What's your initial gut reaction to this fight?
The thing that took me by surprise was that it's happening in San Francisco, Bay Area, home of Devin Haney, right? I think he's from Oakland, but it's right there, the bridge. So yeah, Devin Haney had some stroke going up there in weight. Like, he has a name, and it's a good fight. I was surprised to see it, but it's a good fight. Probably a year ago, I'd probably pick Regis, but after Regis' last outing, and Devin Haney's really talented boxer. I'd probably pick Devin Haney right now. That might change. But I'm glad we're seeing a fight that we want to see.
Yeah.
Or that's like a 50-50, can go either way.
these are the kinds of fights we've been wanting to see Regis in for a while. And outside of Taylor and Zepeda, we don't get too many of these from Regis. So, if anything, Regis might even be the B side on this fight, at least.
I think so.
I would have leaned towards Regis as well. I think between his last fight and then I did a podcast recently with my buddy Harry Gigliotti. Go check that out, Slippery Podcast with Harry Gigliotti. But he was talking about he had seen a video of Regis cutting weight, and he had this bathtub filled with Epsom salts, and then he was pouring rubbing alcohol into it because it dehydrates you. So it's sucking all the liquid out of you, and you can basically die doing that. You know what I mean? Like you could just die doing that. And so that's what he's going through to make 140. And I just don't think that Devin Haney is the guy to be having those problems against. He's too sharp. He's too athletic. His jab is too good. Like on a style level, that's like the last style I want to be fighting if I'm literally using alcohol to suck the moisture out of my skin to make weight.
Oh yeah. I would think this fight is Regis thinking I can touch him. I can hit him, right? Because we've seen Devin Linares hit him, even Lomachenko hit him,
he's been caught, but he's very difficult to hit. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to hit him regularly.
Right. But I would think in Regis's mind he's gonna say I can hit him. But Devin's really good. He's good of kind of taking away what you can do. I've criticized him, not even criticized, but just called it out. Like he holds a lot. Like he's not gonna put himself in a position.
He smothers a lot.
Yeah, he's not gonna put himself in a position to get hit like that. But I'm glad the fight's happening. But do we thank Shakur for this fight happening?
Basically,
let's circle back. Like, right? We've kind of talked about how great Shakur is. And I think Devin had, hey, do I fight Shakur or do I fight Regis? And I think Shakur is a little better fighter than Regis. So I think Devin Haney took, I'm not saying the bigger fight, but he took maybe the more winnable fight by going up. And he's fighting the champion still. Not taking anything away. I can't say
that a duck. I can't
say he's ducking Shakur when he's fighting a champion at 140 who, shoot, before his last fight, everybody saying, yo, Regis knocks everybody out, right?
Vicious puncher.
Yeah. But, so thank you, Shakur. Like, he's forcing other people's hands and getting other people's fights, even though he's not getting the fight.
That's actually a really funny way of putting it, but it's kind of true.
Yeah. But I like the fight, man. And in San Francisco, I hope, people have said, that we talked about fan bases. That, Devin Haney doesn't have that fan base. I hope the Bay Area turns out for Devin Haney. I hope they're all there for him. I think that makes you can feel the atmosphere. Even on a television show, you can feel the, what's going on there. So I hope they fill that place. I hope Regis is hated, and I hope Regis goes for it. I hope Devin goes for it. Really good fight, man. This is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's a hell of a matchup, bro. Very exciting fight. Before we wrap it up, I want to just do some more shameless plugs. We talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but Felix not with us this week. He's finishing up some projects that I think you're all really gonna like and enjoy. I
don't think it's a secret, man. Like Felix, we'll take it down if he doesn't want us to know. But Felix is out there doing work with Jesus Ramos.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Jesus Ramos is a future pound for pound fighter. He's in a really great fight coming up. I'm really high on Erickson Lubin. I think both guys are in the top 5.
It's a great fucking fight. It's a great fight.
Yeah. So yeah, Felix, you can miss the boxing shop, but only because you're out there working with, one of the best fighters in the game.
Well, listen, we've got footage coming from him, from Jesus Ramos. We got footage coming from Elijah Garcia. We've got some local talent that he's doing a 24/7 type episode. Obviously, when he drops it, he'll tell everybody more about that. But I just wanted to plug all that real quick again before we wrap it up. I also have been back in the gym with Shadeja Green, which has been fantastic. It's been great shooting with her again. The couple of times I've been in there with her, like she's really
currently working with her, Dakota.
Huh?
Like you're still working with her?
Yeah, I was in the gym with her this week shooting, and every time I'm around her, bro, it's just like every once in a while you see somebody doing what they do, and you're like, you're taken aback. Like I'm always amazed when I'm around her how easy she makes shit look. Like you forget how hard she's working because she's not even breathing. You know what I mean? It's just it's wild being around her. So there'll be an episode
levels, right? Like
yeah.
When you see that next level, and you know, this is how I'm going. This is how I became an Erickson Lubin fan. I was at the Golden Gloves tournament, and I saw Erickson Lubin. I didn't know Erickson Lubin before I saw him, and I was like, this guy is on another level. Everybody there was about 4 rings going on, 4 bouts going on, and I could only hear one guy's punches landing. And I was like, that's a different level. So, for you to say that about Shadeja, like, when you see it, it's just, I don't know, something to admire,
It really is pretty amazing. And I think that just provided with the matchups, she's going to be like Shakur, like Terrence. I think she's going to show just how good she is because she's going to take somebody like Claressa or Savannah Marshall that everyone's saying this is the best, and she's going to make it look easy. And I feel like she believes that. And I'm looking forward. So there'll be another episode of the Fight Life with her coming in early October. So yeah, we got a lot of shit coming for you guys, especially to round out this year. So this has been a great episode.
I'd like to hear her really talk through the 3-minute rounds that we just did.
Yeah.
With her power, I could see her saying, give me 1 more minute because when I touch you, it's over.
I promise you she would love to do that.
Yeah. And, and her talent, her level like that, like I could see it. But I'd like to hear her talk about it, like the pros and cons of it and, everything we just talked about, to get her take on it.
Yeah. It's been a hell of an episode, my guy. You got anything else?
One second. I know you don't want to talk about it, but I did see in the comments they said, are you watching Fury Ngannou?
The short answer for that for me is no. I think it's kind of a waste. And it's unfortunate that like the best heavyweight in the world is going out of his way to not take any kind of a relevant fight in his own sport.
Yeah, like I'm with you. I mean, I enjoy it, but I think I told you like, I think he has certain things he wants to do. He wants it to look tough, right? Like,
I just think he has certain things he doesn't want to do. Mostly, I think he doesn't want to like work really hard.
That's one of the things. Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, why would I do this when, you look at Usyk and you look at Ngannou. Into the untrained eye, you're going to be like, oh, that guy, Ngannou's the baddest man. And I think that kind of satisfies Fury's. I feel like Fury's out the door. He doesn't really want to box, but he loves it. So he likes boxing. So, yeah, let me beat that guy.
He loves the money and the attention. And this sort of provides both of those things without him having to take any genuine risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I think he beats Usyk, but I don't think you can go into a fight not training and beat Usyk.
No, if he's not in shape, Usyk will obviously win.
Yeah,
and I think that if he's not in shape, he'll beat Ngannou very easily. And I think that's the difference. Is like, But the thing is, like, if he wanted to just do the money thing, I'd watch him fight Joshua. At least he'd be fighting like a legitimate heavyweight.
Yeah, and I think he's tried. I mean, I don't know, but I think he's tried for that. And I think the other side is like, we can make some other things happen. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he's more concerned about not really working hard and then the optics of it, right? Like, oh, I could stand here toe-to-toe with Ngannou and the untrained eye is gonna be like, oh, look at that guy, he's ripped, he's cut, he's just.
Well, and he's got the good poker face of being like kind of a chubby guy, and like he's not afraid to rip the shirt off and whatever. But like at the end of the day, also you can look at him right now and see that he's not training. Like he's never been ripped, but you can tell when Tyson Fury is in shape. You know what I mean? And he's not in shape right now.
No, I think he's he'll probably hit the gym a couple weeks before, and really that's all he's gonna have to do.
He's probably in the gym for an hour a day. I'll give him that.
I've actually, I'm a Fury fan. I've actually watched his show, and he seems to just run like he does cardio. And basically, I feel like if he could breathe and get through rounds, he's gonna beat Ngannou, which is probably what he wants. And he kind of satisfies all his wants, right? Like
he could do it throwing 15 punches around.
Yeah, but I saw it on there, and I thought we'd answer it. Like I'm gonna watch. I like Fury. I like watching fights. But I think he has.
No, I was gonna say whoever posted that. I'm sure there's some MMA show somewhere where they're like, "I don't know, dude. Francis hits really hard." That's not this show,
bro. I read the comments, right? I read the comments, and they're Francis is the hardest puncher. They say he's the hardest puncher. That he did some test that he's the hardest puncher. Francis Ngannou does not punch harder than Deontay Wilder. Francis Ngannou probably does not punch harder than the top 20 heavyweights, right? Everything that we've seen, MMA to boxing, that
he doesn't hit harder
power. No. And that power has not shown anything to carry over, right? Like Conor McGregor hit Floyd Mayweather with a flush uppercut, probably more flush than Floyd's ever been hit. And Floyd walked through that. So the power doesn't carry over. But, hey, it worked, right? Because people are saying, if Francis Ngannou hits him, bro, I really hope, like this is my dream scenario, that Tyson Fury puts his gloves down like Mayorga, lets Ngannou just tee off on him.
Oh, that'll never happen.
Oh, bro, but it could happen, bro, because Tyson Fury could take those punches and still knock him out. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it is what it is. I answered the question. I'll probably watch, but that fight means nothing to me.
No, I have no attachment to even really the result of that fight at all.
Yeah,
it's taking away from, the opportunity to have an undisputed heavyweight champion, and Fury's preventing that.
Yeah, and I'm a Fury fan, but I really
fight, and I'm a big Usyk guy, but that's a very winnable fight for Fury, and the fact that he don't want it drives me crazy. Yeah,
and him saying, he's a middleweight, but hey, just show us. But yeah, I'm a Fury guy, but I really don't think he wants to put in the work to make him win that fight. Like I think he wins that fight, but I don't think he wants to really put in the work.
He's got to be the guy from the second Wilder fight to beat Usyk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got to be on his tippy top. And then in my mind, he's undoubtedly the favorite. But I just trust Usyk's mettle and discipline more than I trust Fury's at this point.
While we're on it, though, what'd you think when that low blow, whatever happened? I know where you're 50-50. What'd you think, though? That change your mind about Usyk at all?
Not really. I think if they had started counting, he would have gotten up. I also thought that it was kind of low. Like, I thought it was an awkward spot. I'm not saying it's a Cotto Judah low blow, but he was clearly scooping up on it a little bit, and it either hit him, kind of in the bladder or on the side of the hip. It was obviously a hard punch, and that was why Usyk stayed down. I don't think it matters where it hit him, but I thought it was a little low, and he took his time and then came back and stopped the guy. So, if Dubois thought he had an opportunity there, he didn't take it because I think Usyk was just the much better fighter.
Yeah, Usyk was a much better fighter. I would say, like, that kind of – I've heard Usyk say, like, if he would have counted, he would have got up. But then I'm like, bro, then why were you acting like that? Hey, it is what it is.
He got hit in the bladder.
Yeah, but
which is uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just say Usyk's the better fighter for sure. He showed that. And Dubois, bro, you can't cry about it when. I mean, I know there's back and forth. Did he quit or not? But he got hit by jab and you stayed down. Like, so I just want, I think that's probably the last time we talked. I don't, a few weeks ago. So
I know, dude. I know.
Yeah,
it had been a while. It's good being back on air with you, bro. For real.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back next week. I'm not sure what iteration of us will be back next week, but we will be back as always. Hell of a show, bro. We'll talk soon.
Hey, we're coming up on the Canelo Day, so stay tuned. We're covering it all. Have a good one.
Peace.